Hi, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. It is a late night meander tonight, nearly 10:20. Not that that matters, does it? I mean, we make the videos when we feel like it, and the time is hardly important. The important thing at this time of the night is that the dogs won't suddenly decide that they're going to start yelling and disturbing the peace. Well, for those of you who very kindly suggested some cures for ways of treating my abscessed tooth, I have an abscessed tooth up here, and I've had it now a couple of days. What you suggested, a lot of people, most people suggest, of course, that I go to see the dentist, and we did that today, but we were not able to see her. She wasn't there yet. But we spoke to the secretary, and when we explained why we were there, we were told, well, the swelling, the inflammation, the infection must actually be treated first. So all that the dentist would do at this point would be to give you some medication. So she suggested that if there was pain, we should go to another dentist who is not very far from that one. We didn't do that, because I had been treating from one of the researches that we did online. We researched online for ways of treating an abscessed tooth, and of course it is a fairly common thing that they're not going to pull or work on a tooth that has a huge inflammation around it. So whatever happens, you're going to have to treat the inflammation. Well, as you all rightly said, it won't go away on its own, so it won't just go away, and that was all good advice. Thank you, and thank you for caring enough to make those suggestions. But at the same time, I'm really not very keen on the drugs, and so we didn't go to that other dentist, because I felt that he would give us some drugs that would have side effects, or antibiotics, which I really don't like having. I've had them before. Had them when I was bitten by a dog on Basak, on Cebu, and boy, they had me falling all over the place. It just made me very dizzy. I don't want to go there again. So we looked online for natural ways of treating it, and boy, there are any number of things that you can do. And consequently, last night, half the night at least, I went to sleep with a slightly warmed, moist tea bag clutched between my teeth. The infected ones, okay. So I managed to hold that in for half the night, maybe a few hours, but I didn't get much sleep anyway. It's not like I'm a heavy sleeper for the whole night. 8 hours is a myth for me. I never sleep for 8 hours. Now, last night I actually heavy with a fever. Finally, I actually went to sleep around 7 or 7:30, something like that, and 12 o'clock. Well, to do the story right, I woke up after having slept reasonably soundly and got up to let the dog out, which I always do around 5:30 a.m. and to my horror, I saw that it was hardly 12 o'clock, which then left me with an agony of sleepless time between 12 and 5:30. So I didn't sleep that great. I wasn't in a terrific amount of pain. The cure that I decided to go, the treatment that I decided to go with, simply because I had the ingredients to be able to do it, and there were two that I could do. Well, the tea bag was one, which I did. I had salt, of course, so I could have gone with a mixed up salted, and I probably even had bicarbonate of soda, so baking soda I should say, and I had that, and I could have made that up as well. What I decided was to go with apple cider vinegar, which I know has strong medicinal purposes, and this one stated that this would be the way to go. Just take a mouthful of apple cider vinegar. Well, we had some because I'd gotten some so that we could have a natural, wholesome dressing on our salads. Well, I haven't been eating. I've been slurping on vegetable. I suppose you'd call it vegetable soup or a homegrown, with a terrific amount of vegetables, but they're all quite soft. So if you're skillful enough with your tongue to eat on one side of your mouth, you can eat that. Last night I didn't have any problem, and I was able to eat. Tonight, for some reason, not quite so well. But Beth got me a big mug of soup, and I was able to have the soup. So what have I found out about apple cider vinegar? It works, and the swelling on my tooth has actually gone down terrifically. Before, it was a little bit difficult to talk, and as you can hear, I'm not having any. You're probably saying, bloody right you're not. I'm not having any difficulty with talking, okay, but I'll try to go with some of the other non-talking research, if you like. Anyway, so I'll have another mouthful of apple cider vinegar before I go to bed. It is horrible to take. Believe me, probably the other one, let me see, there was the tea bag. I'm going from memory now. Tea bag, black tea has it has something in there which is very good for bringing down inflammation and for giving you relief from pain. So I had a little help from that in the night too. But the other one, which I've always used in the past for mouth ulcers, was of course a lot of salt into water and swig it and gargle it and suffer the consequences, because that one hurts. There's another one that I found was interesting as well. Haven't remembered the complete recipe here, but one was virgin olive oil. So I just bought virgin olive oil so that I could use it with the vinegar and make a simple dressing for, as I say, for our salad. Well, I didn't get to do the virgin olive oil. Actually, the idea of putting a spoonful of virgin olive oil in my mouth seemed even worse than the vinegar. I've taken the vinegar before as a drink, you know, a spoonful of the apple cider vinegar can actually put you to feeling right. Okay, well that's my my update on that. What this coincided with was an incredible message, comment, letter that I got from, and I must ask your forgiveness because I can't find the letter, message, comment. I can't find it, and I've looked all the way through all the past comments, way past where I think it should be, haven't been able to find it, so I can't read it. Now, it was too much information to read all of it, but I've heard from this subscriber before. Forgive me for not remembering your name. I think you have a code name, actually a username, which is letters and numbers, so maybe I shouldn't be feeling so bad. But I'm eternally grateful to you for that information, and in fact I know that you must be the same person who sent me the nuts which I took for the lady that had cancer. She was an unwilling natural cure patient, and she eventually succumbed to the chemotherapy. Personally, I would not go for chemotherapy, but that's my belief. That's how I would feel. A very dear friend of mine whose eldest daughter was an RN, registered nurse, and in charge of the whole ward, and so had a great deal of experience, but mostly in emergency room and then later in old folks. So she'd never actually seen the full scale of the chemo until her father fell with cancer, and she went for normal, what you would get, I guess you would call normal medical practices. And let's face it, they spend millions of dollars on chemotherapy and how they give it. Well, the short story is that she then had the terrible experience of watching her father get lower and lower and lower, until she confided with me that, in fact, from being a robust man, she had been able to lift him easily like a feather in and out of bed for him to be treated and helped. So it was a harrowing, heartbreaking situation for her, and she expressed the opinion as a registered nurse that if ever she were faced with that decision again, she would never agree to chemotherapy because of what it did to the person. What it does, it kills the cancer, but it kills everything else as well. That's my view of it, of course, and because medical, what can we say, the establishment, especially the people who sell the pills and the treatment, they're not going to be happy with anybody getting up and saying you can be cured, because they make too much money on treatment. And I've often said about the friend that I went to see in hospital, and while I was in there, a nurse came in and she said, "Excuse me," and she went to the drip that was going into his arm, and she put another, they have a little file that doesn't look a whole lot bigger than this, but it's like a syringe, and she can hook that into the line and it will go in. So like a slow drip for that particular chemical. When she'd left, my friend said that one injection was $1,000. Now, it's not for me to say to someone who is receiving all of the normal, shall we say normal, medical cure, not a cure, but treatment of cancer. It's not for me to say I wouldn't have that. What's the point? So, the letter that I received that was so interesting for me, and why I went and was happy to buy for the lady that had cancer, Beth and I bought a juicer. We bought, I don't know, I think it was like 15 or 16 kilos of vegetables, of carrots and other stuff, and we gave them the money so that they could go out and buy the fresh vegetables as they needed it, because carrots will keep for a long time. Well, that failed because she gave up and she went for chemo, and certainly we haven't heard any good news since then. So, for my own interest, I'm presently not suspected of cancer, but suspecting of having an enlarged prostate, because the obvious symptom of that is having to go to the bathroom a great deal. So I'm interested in doing something which would find out what the natural remedies are. And this gentleman, who I'm so very grateful to, said that he had cured cancer. So he'd had tumours, and he backed it with a lot, which if I'd been able to find that damn email or message, a comment, I'd be able to pull up these references which he gave. One of a doctor from 1908 who had done some research, and I believe I've got the same research, and had found that, I think it's B17, it could be K17, as I say, I'm going from memory. I will find it, and I am going to go out and get K or B17 and be taking it religiously. Now this is what they found, which was very interesting. They found that difficult to understand this, but they said it wasn't the K17 that was doing it. It was what it did. It was what it did, which was to introduce, I think it was cyanide, in enough quantities that it would kill the cancer cells but not affect the healthy cells. So under a microscope, when they introduced the K or B17, it actually killed off the cancer cells. Now, I know enough that what you need when you are in any way interested in your health is to have a balanced, what was it called? The difference between an acidic and an alkaline balance in your body. You are alkaline and you are acidic. Now obviously you have to have an acidic element to you if you're going to break down foods. So that has to be there. When it goes out of balance, then that's when you are prone to cancer, because cancer loves an acidic, non-oxygenated environment. So from my earlier research on this, I remember that what would happen, let me see if I can demonstrate. Let's say that this is the healthy cell. What happens is that several cancer cells will latch on there, and then finally they will prevent all oxygen from being with that cell, which it needs to survive. Well, if it's not surviving, what's closest to it? And that's the cancer cells, and then that starts off the reaction. Now all of this can be denied or contradicted, and yes, okay, that's fine. I'm just going with what, if I was faced with a life-threatening situation, I'm trying to tell you what I would do. And I would certainly go for something that was natural. Now, with my abscess, I don't know whether the cure, I don't know, I haven't had this before, so I don't know whether it's going to work. And I had some pretty threatening bits of advice that if your abscess is draining pus and you're swallowing, then that's going to affect your heart. Don't want that to happen. And somebody said, as it's already in your head, it can affect your brain. Well, presently my brain needs all the help it can get in order to be happy, okay? So I tend to take these things, I do take these things seriously. And it's so simple. For me, if someone suggests something that would be so simple to get rid of something, why, it makes sense to me to try it. So I have the apple cider vinegar there. I took a swig of it. It is foul to take. It attacks the tongue, and you just can't wait to get that damn stuff out of your mouth. But you can feel that there is, or in my case here, I can feel that there is a reaction to it. So I probably didn't keep it in my mouth for long enough, but how I think I've made up for that is I've done it much more than the 2 or 3 times that was recommended. This was on a computer that we did this research. But my friend gave a piece of information that was very interesting to me. He said, you can test yourself for cancer, and the way that you do that is with the pregnancy test. Now, I went out today and I bought 6 pregnancy tests, okay? Now, I am going to take one of those pregnancy tests, and please, all of you sharp-witted guys who are going to ask me, is it a boy or is it a girl? I'll answer you now. Okay, so we're not going to go into that. Anyway, if it's positive, then there's the indication that you may have cancer in your body. Now, from all of my reading, I've read that we all have cancer in our body, and it's a matter of it being triggered. Whether it's triggered by karma or the infinite or just some bloody bad luck is another thing. So anyway, once that is decided and you've gone along with the idea that there is cancer in the body, then there's things that you can do. And I believe that it was apricot nuts. I think that's what it was, either apricot or almond nuts that this gentleman sent to me for that lady, which I took and gave to her. I will make every effort to get those and start taking them. We're actually on a very healthy diet anyway right now. It's mostly vegetables. We're not eating any meat. That is, if you don't call fish a meat. Fish is another thing. I've had some fish, and I've had eggs, I've had omelets, but I haven't been eating pork, which I used to eat a lot because that's what they cook here. It's a favourite in the family. Pork in a really delicious soup. I'll eat that night after night, and have done in a lot of cases. But also beef, and of course chicken. Show me a Filipino family that doesn't eat chicken and rice, and I won't believe you. So we've been eating very healthy ever since. I drink a lot of water now. I don't drink unless it's very rare and I can't resist it. If I go to a restaurant, I might crumble and have a coffee, okay? But I don't have the 3-in-1 coffee, which is a whole sachet, which gives you really strong coffee. I've only ever taken half, and that's quite weak. And even when I was taking coffee from the jar, from some that was sent to me, even then it would be so weak as to be an insult to anybody that drinks coffee. But I now don't do that either. I take tea, and even tea I drink Chinese style, so that you can see the bottom of the cup. It's very, very weak, because otherwise if you make it too strong and you don't have any milk and sugar, which I'm also not having, I don't have sugar. If you don't have those things, then tea can be very bitter, so I try to make it as light as I possibly can. So I'm being a good boy already. Now, if I have to introduce nuts into my diet, so be it, and we will see how it goes. There is some advice in that letter which I will find eventually, but anyway, I'll let you know what's happening, whether the pregnancy test is positive or not, and maybe we'll slip one of the tests to Beth and hope that it is, and for all it is positive, and hope that it's positive for all the right reasons. So to my subscriber friend who sent me all of that incredible information, I'm talking about an incredible information, thank you. I appreciate it very much. I will give you credit for sending that message. and I thank you very much. So this is it from me. Thank you for staying with me. If you have, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Bye for now.